Good morning, everyone. I have been MIA for a couple of weeks because Embrace is incredibly busy, which is wonderful, but then I feel like I neglect this and being in the community and getting out. So I apologize. I apologize if you've sent me emails or tweets or anything. If they weren't urgent, they didn't get answered. Send them again so I could remember. But it has been pretty busy. We're going to talk about something kind of funny today. Interesting. I'm going to try to get this window out of the background with me here since it's kind of bright. Let's see if I can move aside here. Okay, maybe that looks better. I'm on my ball, you know, my famous birth ball. Somebody told me, they said, I love how you bounce up and down. So I've always known as a midwife that one of the things I get lots and lots of texts and calls about, speaking of which, let me stop right there, texts. Texts are not HIPAA compliant, and I always say if it's urgent enough to text me, it should be urgent enough to call me. So I need to get a hold of some of my clients and minimize the texting. I had a text the other day for an hour. We went back and forth, and I'd rather just have that phone call. If it's urgent, it's urgent. I want to hear your story. And if it's not urgent, then I would ask, as a midwife with lots of women in my roster, that you wait until a business hour to talk to me about it. And I know that sounds harsh, but understand that that 11 o'clock texts on Sunday nights are hard for us when we're trying to get sleep and we're trying to get ready for the next day, and we have a mama in labor, and so I think people don't always quite understand the vastness of midwifery. It's pretty intense for a lot of us. So on that note, I've gotten all these texts about poops and poots and pukes and burps, and it dawned on me that that's a really critical thing for new moms, right? So here's the thing. We're obsessed with our new babies, and they do a few things. They cry, they coo, if we're lucky, in their sleep usually. They sleep, if we're lucky. They nurse, if all is going well. And then they have body functions. And those body functions are mom's clues into how babies are doing. And there are clues into how babies are doing too. So we have some guidelines. We want babies to nurse at least every 2 to 3 hours around the clock so that we can keep their blood sugars up and we can keep them growing. We want you to have 1 wet diaper the first day, 2 wet diapers the second day, 3 wet diapers the third day, and 4 to 6 wet diapers a day for the rest of their life. I say we want that forever. Babies should have a bowel movement in the first 24 to 48 hours. And then after that bowel movement, sometimes babies can go a while. So breastfed babies, and that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're a formula feeding mama, it's not that we don't love you, but today we're going to talk specifically about breastfeeding baby issues. So what happens is sometimes babies use that breast milk so efficiently that they don't poop, and they can go a couple of weeks and not have a bowel movement and be perfectly fine. So bowel movements, although important, they are not something we can grade our baby's health on all the time. So let's talk about the phone calls and the texts I've gotten in the last few weeks, and let's talk about the information that every new mom should have up front. So partly I feel like I failed my moms because they had to reach out to me for things that really were very routine. So that means I didn't do a good job educating them prenatally. That's my fault. And so we made a handout. We have something now that is a little more specific for body functions in babies, although that's not what I called it. I called it poops and poots and pukes because, of course, that's how I roll, right? But body functions in babies might be good. So 90%, I would say, of my calls postpartum, maybe more, are about babies that are gassy, babies that haven't pooped or are pooping too much or straining when they poop, or babies that have spit up. So those are my 3 crazy, all the time, continuous questions that come in from moms. So let's take each of those. So first of all, let's talk about burps. Some babies burp a lot. Usually it's when the milk comes in and, hi Christy, the milk comes in and they're gulping. And so they'll start to burp. It can also happen if they don't have a good latch, right? Because they're, and they're swallowing air. So they can burp a lot, and that's great. Sounds like, daddy after a beer. But it doesn't mean much, okay? So some babies don't do that. They don't ever burp at all. Moms will say, I can never get a burp out. And that's okay too. If baby's comfortable, we don't care. So burps come and go. But what happens sometimes is babies get a bubble of air under their feeding, right? And so that air bubble sits there, and when we burp them, bloop, out comes the milk that they just swallowed. Good morning. So here's this little air bubble. Mom tries to burp baby, or maybe mom just sets baby back down and bloop, here comes the milk. So that's normal. Sometimes it can even seem like a whole feeding, bloop, out on your lap. If you're burping baby on your shoulder, you get it all down your back, or that's normal. That happens. And listen, as long as baby's comfortable, baby's nursing well, he might be hungry right away again, like nurse him again, that's okay. But that's normal. Babies spit up. Now, if it's the whole feeding every time, I want you to call us. If it projects out of the baby's mouth, not a couple inches, not a, but like I hit the wall when I, held him, or the baby hit the wall with the puke. There's a few things that concern us about that. So projectile vomiting, it's going out a ways. Firstborn male babies, in particular, can have something called pyloric stenosis, and it's actually a dysfunction in the esophagus. It has to be fixed usually surgically, but it's something we want to know about. Jessica, who is my daughter-in-law, soon to be my daughter-in-law, my son's father had it as a baby. So our boy babies are more likely to develop it. So we have to be a little more cautious. So pyloric stenosis shoots vomit across the room. Okay, every feeding, every time we have shooting vomit. Spit ups, a little bit, they dribble down our front, dribble down our backs, okay? The other thing that we can worry about with babies is GERD. So that's the esophageal reflux disease, where babies continually, burp up, burp up, burp up. Babies that have that tend to refuse breastfeeding because they're sore, they're tender, they have a sore throat from the acid and from the problems, right? They fail to gain weight. So spit up babies keep gaining weight, they do well, they're happy between feedings, they want to eat again. GERD babies don't want to eat again. They tend to be more sickly in the fact that they don't want to connect, right? And they tend to not want to go back on the breast after a feeding. They don't want to go back on the breast after a spit up. So two different symptoms. So burping babies are normal. Non-burping babies are normal, and babies who spit up a little bit, even if it's with every feeding, is okay. Feed that baby again. If they're happy, they're gaining weight, everything else is good, we're good, okay? So spit ups, not an issue. Let's talk a little bit about spit ups right after birth. So spit ups right after birth can have a little meconium in them sometimes, a little blood in them sometimes from the vaginal canal. They can have a little green, yellowish stuff in them, and that's all okay. Usually if a baby has that, it'll spit that up once or twice in the first 24 to 48 hours, and then it's done. And it's nothing to be concerned about. All right, if you're going to be offended, you might want to turn off now, but poop. They'll say, shit happens, right? So, but for new babies, it's a hassle. So I had a text this week. This really tickles me. And she texted me. Now, if she's not on with us right now, but if you watch this, I want you to know that I love you, and I really do. She says, hey, I just Googled grunting baby syndrome, and it's a thing. And I'm like, grunting baby syndrome? What is this thing? So, of course, I had to Google it because I've never heard of grunting baby syndrome. And basically what it means is babies turn red, and they grunt and they cry, and sometimes they poop and sometimes they don't. Grunting baby syndrome. Honest to God, Google it. It's a thing. So grunting baby syndrome is every baby. Every baby now has grunting baby syndrome. So grunting baby syndrome is a whole lot of effort and not a whole lot of poop, right? So let's think about why that happens in new babies. New babies who've never had to have a bowel movement, okay? So let's go back a little way. I'm a brand new baby. Let's think about what life is like for me. I've never heard these noises. I've never seen these lights. I've never seen these strangers who are looking at me. I've never had to eat or breathe or poop or pee or pass gas or even just have a diaper on, the roughness or the pinch of that. Have you ever put clothes on and they felt confining? Can you imagine how a new baby feels? Everything is different. And so just by that alone, we know that babies are transitioning to being air-breathing spirits. We want to understand that everything can be disconcerting to a new baby. That's why kangaroo care, that's why being on mom or dad, that's why recreating that womb with white noise or heartbeats are so important, because it brings that baby back to those safe places where it's familiar with, okay? So pooping. Let's think about this. I've never had to poop before. I have to tighten my tummy to push. I have to relax my butt to let it out. I have to do it while I'm laying down. No wonder I have to work hard. It's kind of like rubbing your tummy and patting your head. You have to learn how to relax that one sphincter while pushing with your abdomen. So if we think about that, of course it takes babies practice. And when they're practicing, they're going to turn red and grunt and groan and cry and really look like they're struggling. And they are, but nobody can fix that for them. We all learn to poop eventually, right? And we probably were all grunting babies at one time. So what we can do is we can comfort them. We can put a little pressure on their tummy. So lean them over your shoulder high. So you put the baby up high on your shoulder so that your shoulder puts pressure on their abdomen. We can swaddle them. We can comfort them. We can bicycle their legs. We can put them in a warm bath. But we have to let that baby work their way through it. So grunting babies are trying to poop. Poop is good. We don't have to fix this, mamas. We can let that baby have a learning process. Welcome to motherhood. How many times are we going to have to stand back, let our children learn, even when it's not comfortable, right? Even when it hurts a little. And we have to support them in that process. So here's our, mamahood 101 happening right there. So grunting baby syndrome is a thing. And again, talking specifically about breastfed babies here, they can poop after every feeding, or they can poop once every 2 to 3 weeks is what the experts say. They can really go a long time because they're absorbing all that nutrients, and both of those is normal, okay? Both of those is normal. What's not normal? What's not normal is when a breastfed baby has a bowel movement that looks like rabbit pellets. Is that my farm girl coming out? I know Jessica knows what rabbit pellets look like. That looks like hard balls. That's not normal in a breastfed baby. Breastfed babies should always have yellow, mustardy, seedy. I always say it looks like mustard mixed with cottage cheese. That's kind of the way a breastfed baby's stool should look, or poop should look. So if your baby's poop looks like that, no matter how hard they had to work to have it, it's good. It's a good bowel movement. We're gonna call it a success story, okay? So the last thing I want to talk about is babies and gas. So here we are again. Caroline, okay, wait, hang time out. Carolyn, I just bought a whole bunch of lilac plants to plant around the birth center so that I could honor my grandmother, my grandma Leah, who we called Grandma Snugglebud. She was just this warm, gentle, beautiful spirit. And the fact that Carolyn thinks that she sees Grandma Leah in me is a huge compliment in my heart. So thank you. And like I said, I'm thinking about how to honor her right now here at the birth center because I feel her so much in my life. So let's talk about gassy babies. Gassy babies are a given. So here we go back. Let's think about the physical part of this. I have a sterile gut. There is nothing in my gut, no bacteria. I have to come out. I have to populate my gut with good bacteria. That creates gurgling, right? Gurgling, and then we start to hear the processes of our bowels. We start to work on bowel movements and on gas. That is normal. in the medical world, we call that bowel sounds, and we consider that a healthy sign that things are happening. So when you hear a baby be gassy, and let's go back to the stool, remember, hard to push that out. It's not like us where, okay, I've got to pass gas, I'm good. Babies have to work at that, just like they have to work at pooping. So when we have a gassy baby, it doesn't feel good, maybe they do have a little gas pain, they're bubbly and rumbly, we know that it's normal, that the bowels are working properly, that they're trying to colonize those bowels, and they colonize them first through vaginal birth. The vaginal flora and the rectal flora that the baby comes in contact with during the birth process is important to seed that colon and that gut so that babies can become healthier. Breastfeeding, the flora on your hands and your breasts that the babies ingest, the bacteria, that's part of that baby's gut flora. So as that starts to burble and gurgle, babies have gas. Gas is good. So if baby is miserable, and I'm going to tell you this, it's kind of normal. Here we go back. It's almost normal for them to be a little uncomfortable with this. This is not necessarily something we have to fix. We need to support them in learning how to process that, learning how to have that happen. But again, if you need something, if you're exhausted and you just want to fix it somehow, gripe water is safe, and also really a lot of moms find it helpful. The other thing is a warm bath. Always go, when you massage your babies, always go like the clock, right? You want bowel movements to be timely is how I kind of remember it. So go around clockwise on their belly, help to rub that a little bit, bicycle their legs. Amy tickles me because she's always said it was ankles to ears. So she would kind of bend Elise back and forth to help the gas work out. There's lots of things we can do to support them. It's not necessarily things we have to do, but as moms and dads, hi Tank, as moms and dads, we don't want our babies to be unhappy. And guess what? That makes you spectacular. The fact that you're concerned, the fact that you care tells me right from the get that you're an amazing parent and you're working hard to help your baby be happy and comfortable. And so those are all good internal feelings that we have, and those are awesome. We just have to learn how to separate what is pathological or what means illness versus what is physiological. It's normal, and it's a developmental thing babies go through. So next time your baby is burpy, irpy, spitty, gassy, poopy, I want you to come back and watch this video. I want you to know that 95% of that is absolutely normal, even if it looks really miserable for the baby. And as is often our role as parents, we are needed to love and support and comfort that baby as they become an independent spirit in our lives. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to let you all go today because I have a day stacked to hear. I wish I had some of my son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws and people to come join me and help me get through my day. We're moving and we're working in the yard, so it's a big day at Embrace. And I have a full clinic, and I have 4 mamas too. So we have a lot stacked up around here, but we welcome each and every change. And I hope you have a blessed day. We will hopefully see you next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.